Running communication cables alongside power conductors presents potential issues, even if the power conductors are only carrying 120 volts with low amperage. While the communication cable, like the Belton 3106, are rated for 300 volts, might seem adequate, several factors warrant careful consideration. The primary concern is electromagnetic interference, or EMI. Power conductors, especially those carrying alternating current, emit electromagnetic fields. These fields can induce unwanted signals in the communication cable, disrupting data transmission and leading to errors. The severity of EMI depends on several factors, including the current in the power conductors, the distance between the cables, and the frequency of the signals. Secondly, there's the potential for ground loops. When communication and power systems share a common ground, differences in ground potential can create circulating currents, leading to noise and signal degradation in the communication cable. This is particularly problematic in systems with long cable runs or multiple grounding points. Thirdly, while the communication cable is rated for 300 volts, it may not be designed to withstand high power surges or fault currents. If a fault occurs in a power circuit, the communication cable could be exposed to damaging voltages, even if it is rated for seemingly high voltage. Looking at code requirements, the National Electrical Code, or NEC, doesn't explicitly prohibit running communication cables in the same conduit as power conductors in all situations. However, the NEC does lay out general requirements that apply to all electrical installations. Firstly, cables must be installed according to the manufacturer's instructions. This means paying attention to any specific recommendations regarding separation from power conductors or the use of shielding. Secondly, the conduit must be properly sized to accommodate all cables without overcrowding. Overcrowding can damage the insulation of the cables and increase the risk of shorts or ground faults. Thirdly, cables must be properly supported and secured to prevent damage from vibration or movement. This is particularly important in industrial environments where equipment can generate significant vibration. Best practices dictate that despite the lack of explicit code prohibitions, it's generally best to avoid running communication cables in the same conduit as power conductors, especially if the power conductors carry high currents or are subject to voltage surges. The potential for EMI, ground loops, and safety hazards outweighs any cost savings from sharing conduit. Given this, the following recommendations are put forth. Firstly, the best approach is to physically separate the communication cable from the power conductors. This can be accomplished by using a separate conduit or cable tray. The greater the separation, the lower the risk of interference. Secondly, if physical separation is not feasible, consider using shielded communication cables. Shielded cables have a metallic layer that surrounds the conductors and helps to block electromagnetic interference. The shield should be properly grounded to be effective. Thirdly, ensure that the conduit is properly sized and installed, and that the cables are securely fastened to prevent any movement or vibration that could damage them. This is important regardless of whether the cables are run separately or together. Finally, after the installation is complete, test the communication system to verify that it's free of noise and interference. This can be done using a variety of test equipment, such as oscilloscopes and spectrum analyzers. If noise or interference is detected, take corrective action, such as rerouting cables or adding additional shielding. In summary, while running communication cables in the same conduit as low-voltage power conductors might seem permissible at first glance, it's a practice fraught with potential problems. By understanding the risks involved and following best practices, it's possible to minimize the likelihood of interference, ground loops, and safety hazards. When in doubt, it's always best to err on the side of caution and keep communication cables separate from power conductors.